This is the MDRT podcast. A changed world means advisors who want to succeed will connect with clients in new ways, including social media and video messaging. During a Zoom call on June 16th,
Catherine from Singapore.
Sarah Hogan from Manchester, UK.
John Enright from Syracuse, New York.
Discuss the benefits of embracing these digital avenues.
We've really had a zero budget for marketing, and I think of marketing different than branding. On branding, on the other hand, we've had a relatively modest budget, but I see that increasing because we'll consider all the social media an aspect of our branding effort, and of course, as part of our marketing. We have a handful of new clients that have come to us through this, and what we've done is transitioned our first meeting from being in person and a folder of information that I present to them. It's now 100% in PowerPoint. But we also Federal Express to them the content that's in the folder I typically deliver in the first meeting, so they have it in advance of the meeting.
Yeah, I think we're pretty similar. I mean, we were using a PowerPoint when a client came in anyway. We made that switch, I think, at the beginning of last year. So that was relatively easy to get that onto Zoom. And we send everything via email in a zip folder before the meeting. So all the compliance documents and things like that. There's some of that now that we're just looking. So some of the stuff that we would go through at the beginning of a first meeting, which is you're going through your compliance documents and your data protection, things like that. We're looking at putting that into a video that we send as well before the meeting, so that it is purely about the client in the first meeting, as opposed to having to get all that kind of out of the way at the beginning. So we're just exploring that option at the moment. I think, again, piggybacking on what John said before, the more stuff that we can do via video in terms of onboarding, because the flip side of this, the negative side of this, and something a client actually said to me, hopefully not about the meeting we were having, but was that people are getting Zoom doom. And I didn't even realize that was a thing, but apparently we're all a bit zoomed out and we're all a bit teamed out and all these Skype and FaceTime and everything else. So obviously that will settle down, but there's only so many hours in a day. And I think sometimes people have then gone to the opposite extreme and said, well, let's do a Zoom or let's do a Teams meeting. And actually it can be dealt with on a phone call. So we're just trying to find our feet with that. And I think some of the onboarding, some of the most simpler stuff will be done in a video format that we can send out and then just have a call with them to see whether they agree or whether they're happy with it or they're comfortable with it and things like that. So I think particularly one of the things I've learned with having the children is that I'm an early bird, I'm up and at it at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I can have work done before the girls are even up. Now, obviously, I can't be calling clients on Zoom at 6 o'clock in the morning, but if I can be doing stuff on a video that I can send them at that time in the morning, then that frees up a lot of time for me, whereas your normal kind of Zoom hours are 9 to 5 or 9 to 7 or whatever that might be. So, yeah, I certainly think that there will be things like that will change in terms of onboarding. Prospecting, we're massively lucky that probably 90% of our business comes on the back of personal recommendation. So we don't do a massive amount of marketing. We do name awareness or branding. We do a lot of social media, a lot on LinkedIn. So we do quite a bit on that side of things. But with the exception of where we're trying to get to with the webinars, that's a big focus for us. What that looks like remains to be seen in terms of funnels and all these types of things that the clever marketing people will talk about. But yeah, I can see there will certainly be changes, and we just have to settle somewhere in the middle, I think. I think we've gone kind of whole hog one way to virtual, and as things return to normal, hopefully we will settle with something that fits really well in the middle. Catherine, how about you?
Yeah, I actually prepared a video featuring about my award presentation, my charitable events, and also our outing events and the country that I traveled to. So all this video, after I send it to my clients for them to see, and I follow up with a phone call, they will be very curious to know what about the school that I built. Why do I want to build a school? From there, we have a talking point so that the relationship can be nearer and it's easier to have a trustworthy relationship from the video clip. This is what we call pre-frame. I attended one webinar, I learned from there. So I start using that to send to my customer, and the response is quite good. And I'm going to set a budget for the advertising in the social media like Facebook, LinkedIn, all this. So I get some people to write the copywriting for me, do a well version of the video clip, everything about my agency, my own activity, my own events. So advertise in the Facebook constantly, but this will cost me a lot of money. So I have to do it progressively and see what is the response and outcome. I have to go on social media, otherwise quite difficult to stay relevant in this market.
I think coming back to what we were saying before about giving people the choice of masks and things like that, I think some of it comes down to that. I think we've got to get away from a one size fits all, and it's, if somebody wants to onboard or they want to have a meeting via Zoom, that's great. If they want to do it over the phone, that's great. If they want to do it face to face, that's great. I think you've got to be equally positive that all the different options are available. And I certainly think for us, it will change marketing, because if you've got an office in a particular area, I mean, both of our offices are not in the city centre, they're out in towns and villages on the outskirts. So you want to be kind of a local hero, a local name, support local events and things like that. And now there is a question mark over that, because now actually with things like webinars, with social media marketing, with Zoom, that you can be a national company. So should you be channeling all your efforts into becoming the local champion in a local area, or should you actually be channeling everything to be done online? And that probably remains to be seen, and will be different for different advisors depending on what it is that they're looking to do. But I certainly think a balance of both of them, that you can now do online marketing, online meetings, and therefore it doesn't matter if the client is 200 miles away, because everybody's used to doing it like this. But equally, if you've got a local presence and somebody wants to come in and sit and have a cup of coffee and a cake or whatever, then that's fine as well. So it's opening more opportunities, definitely, for working different ways within the business, with different advisors, with different clients, and it being the norm as opposed to it being something new and scary that people don't want to do.
It definitely seems like a sink or swim moment, where advisors may not last if they don't change.
Yeah, it amazes me that some advisors that you speak to that have just basically sat at home for 3 months doing their gardens, and then will go back to doing what they've always done, the way that they've always done it. And then there'll be people, hopefully like ourselves and the guys on this call, that will come out of it with new processes, with more efficiencies, with different ways of working, and the business will flourish again and take off again. But that's what MDRT members are like. That's why we are members of MDRT, because we're those types of people that go to these events, that pick up these ideas, and that we actually implement them, as opposed to just going and saying, oh, that's a great idea, and actually never doing anything with it. So yeah, I think you will see some very different businesses come out of this, and then you will see some people that will go back to doing it exactly the same way as they always did it.
This episode is part of MDRT's podcast series about advisors adapting to the global health crisis and down market. If you'd like to subscribe, find us on Spotify and SoundCloud, and we'll see you next time.